Hello, it's me. I'm back. Not when I said I would be, but it's been less than a month since last time I posted a video, so that's an improvement. When I was diagnosed with ADHD, my assessor told me that I ticked all the boxes. I am the woman who has everything. Today I'm going to tell you guys about the 7 ADHD symptoms that affect me the most, why they're such a pain for people with ADHD, and the unexpected pros that come alongside them. Number 1, time. Time is still a magical mystery to me. I am always late. I underestimate the amount of time it takes to do things, or I get distracted, or both. I just don't seem to understand it at all. I have a genuine cognitive deficit when it comes to time. Pro. It's not much, but I always know when the next train is because I'm so used to missing them. My solution, I can't pretend that I've come anywhere near close to solving this one, but calendar blocking and alarms are a must. If you have to catch a train at 1 o'clock, set an alarm for 12:30 and then an alarm for 15 minutes before that so that you know when you're supposed to be putting your shoes on and getting out the door. Amy Landino is the queen of calendar blocking and she has an amazing video introducing it, which I will link down in the description down below. Number 2, procrastination. I almost feel like this one should have been number 1 because it's definitely the worst one for me. People with ADHD have less dopamine in our brains, which is the neurotransmitter that controls motivation. Basically, our to-do list is not stimulating enough for us to want to do it at all. By stimulating, what I mean is interesting, important, or rewarding enough for our brains to think that it's actually worth doing. Now, most people's to-do lists aren't that interesting, but this is only a minor annoyance for people without ADHD because they actually have enough dopamine in their brains to begin with. So, people with ADHD also tend to think a lot of thoughts all the time, so it's really hard for us to focus on the present moment or the task at hand. And because things aren't stimulating, we tend to get distracted looking for things that are, so everything takes longer, adding to the overall mental cost of the thing that we're trying to do. Pro, my constant need for stimulation has led me to learn a lot of interesting things about a lot of interesting topics. I'm also now great at working under pressure because I always leave everything to the last minute. My solution for this is stimming, so basically entertaining myself to the point that I can focus on what I'm supposed to be doing. And I do that by watching YouTube videos while I'm doing, say, like something menial, or having a coffee, or listening to music. Another solution that I think is wonderful is the 5-minute rule. Basically, I only have to do something for 5 minutes. If I don't want to finish it after I've been doing it for 5 minutes, I can quit. But usually I don't. And if I have to do a thing and it's really, really bad, I break it up into the most minute steps I can imagine. For instance, close the Chrome tab that I'm currently scrolling through Twitter on, stand up, walk to the place where I have to do the thing, and then start doing the thing. How to ADHD did an amazing video on this. They call it the wall of awful, and that phrase has actually made its way into my daily vocabulary. They also cover a lot of great ways to overcome the wall of awful, and I really recommend that you go watch it, so I've linked it in the description down below. 3, emotional dysregulation. I find it almost impossible to cope with minor frustrations. I suffer from extremely low mood and really struggle to pull myself out of it. And I'm prone to extreme anxiety over extremely minor things. Obviously, this kind of helps explain why people with ADHD tend to also suffer from comorbid anxiety and depression. Not to mention, we also find it hard to identify our emotions before they are actually already overwhelming us. So it's hard for us to manage stress in a healthy way. Pro, because I can't tell when I'm stressed out, I have integrated anti-stress habits into my daily life instead of waiting until I'm already overwhelmed. And that makes me feel like a well-being goddess. People also find me kind of funny when my stress is making me hyperactive, but I'll take what I can get. My solutions for this are CBT and mindfulness. I'll probably dedicate a whole video to these because I honestly think that they're so important. 4, rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Criticism is very painful to me. It is very easy to rub me up the wrong way, and I don't forgive people easily, and I never forget I assume that people don't like me, or that they think that I'm stupid or ugly or cringy or annoying, which is demonstrably untrue. I'm very cool. And this happens because people with ADHD have typically received tens of thousands more negative messages about themselves before they even reach adulthood. I assume, based on past experiences, read my entire childhood, adolescence, and early 20s, that people will think that it's because I'm lazy, careless, thick, unmotivated, or have no self-control, rather than that I have a disability because ADHD is invisible. Projection-sensitive dysphoria is an acquired secondary symptom of ADHD, centered around extremely poor self-esteem and internalization of negative, potentially not even correct, messages. The pro is kind of the solution. I've had to learn to like myself for myself instead of what other people think of me. It still stings when people criticize me, but I've learned to realize that it's more of a reflection of their tactlessness and potentially ignorance than my worth as a person. Number 5, impulsivity. I always start new things before finishing the old things. You also have a proclivity for impulse spending. You also act without thinking about the long-term consequences, like last year when I permanently box dyed my hair without considering the fact that my hair is really long and I wouldn't just be able to grow it out. And pro, I'm fun at parties. I'm also more creative because of this. I get an idea and I have to act on it. I've not fully gotten to grips with this one, but I do have a couple of solutions. Number 1 is my mantra, which is just don't get angry. Number 2 is if I want to impulse buy something online, I leave it in my basket for a week and I come back after a week, and if I really wanted it, then I can buy it. Loudness. This technically comes under impulsivity, but I feel like it deserves one all for itself. I talk a lot, often more than my fair share, and even worse, I tend to try and finish people's sentences for them. I also swear, loudly and often, and it's actually pretty distracting for other people when I can't stop talking. On the plus side, the people in my life wouldn't know half as much about my special interests if I wasn't so loud about them. It also makes me better at streaming because I never shut up. My solution is to just try and be an active listener. If I focus on my breathing while I'm listening to somebody talk, I can focus enough on what they're saying instead of what I want to say after they're finished talking, or worse, before they're finished talking. Number 7, spacing out. I frequently lose important items like my phone or my wallet. I'm always going on autopilot and doing silly or dangerous things like leaving the cooker on or forgetting to do things that are important, meaning that I try so hard to not forget something important that I end up forgetting something else important, and it's an achievement when this doesn't happen. But pro, to all intents and purposes, I'm living in a slapstick comedy, and I often forget nice things that I've done for myself, which is nice. It's like getting a surprise from past me. My solution to this is rabid organization. My phone is now a cornucopia of alarms and reminder notifications and lists. Calendar blocking and event setting with Google Calendar reminds me when I'm supposed to do things, so I don't forget to make dinner until 11 p.m. or forget to go to my appointments or pick up my meds. And yes, I acknowledge the fact that I did just say that I lose my phone often. All I can say is thank God for the cloud. So that was it. The 7 ADHD symptoms that affect me the most. The solutions I found so far don't really fix everything, and to be honest, the pros don't really make up for the deficits of living with ADHD. But honestly, I didn't want to make this video completely negative. ADHD makes life harder, but it doesn't make it not worth living, and I never want to give that impression. If you are ADHD and you're watching this video, I want to know what solutions you found to your symptoms. I also want to know which of these 7 do you think affects you the most. If you don't have ADHD, did you know about any of these symptoms before, or were they new to you? I hope this video helped explain some of the ways ADHD affects me and other people with ADHD. Reminder that I have linked videos on calendar blocking and the Wall of Awful down in the description below if you want to check those out, which I highly recommend that you do. But until next week, bye!